it's fun, you wanna be in my space. Too close to the sun, don't seem to care if it's safe. Well, that makes two of us. I'm so insane, and you like it. But you haven't seen anything yet. Now you're just beginning your trip to regrets. You might think you know me, but soon you forget. I'm too insane, and you know it. You got to learn to like me again and again, 'cause I will make you love me again and again. Just when you think you love me, you'll think again, 'cause I will make you hate me again and again.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Sorry I haven't been on lately, haven't made any new content, but I have been on YouTube, just not on my own channel. And I've been watching a lot of interviews and discussions and different panels, and there are some things lately that I've been listening to that have me questioning the timeline now. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed these things, and what is your conclusion on this. First want to go, and I want to start off with a on Doug's No Thanks channel, the phone call he had with Dawn, and Dawn talking about the time that he called Candace when they were supposed to be at the Walgreens. That's like big to me. How could you say you called between 3 or 4:30 and you were already getting ready to come home from work, and you were outside talking with Jamie, and you were getting ready to leave, just to call her and turn around and decide to stay later because you find out she's still busy, so you don't come home yet. Let's go ahead and listen to this. And I don't know if anyone else has listened to this. I know a lot of people, I don't care who the creator is. I'm only about information. So whether you like the creator or not, it doesn't matter to me. I listen to all creators, all of them. Even the horrible, the worst ones I listen to, because sometimes there's things that are said that you haven't heard before, and I just want information. I want to know what happened that day. So let's go ahead and listen to this and see what you guys think.
Oh, I was just asking you, so when you were talking for 45 minutes, what car was she driving?
Well, like she said, I mean, she took her mom's truck down looking for Summer. She was driving all over, up and down Ben Hill Road, you know.
I got other stuff we could bring.
I like how to listen to it a bunch of times. I just couldn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me.
Get my coffee. We're good. Take your time.
Hopefully I'm back. I don't know.
There you go. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know for how long, but I'm here.
All right. So I was just asking you, so when you were talking for 45 minutes, what car was she driving?
Well, like she said, I mean, she took her mom's truck down looking for Summer. She was driving.
All right. At that point, okay. At what point do you remember what time you called where they were at Walgreens, and you said you were going to work late that night? Do you remember what time you called Freedom Feel Better? Thank you. Do you remember what time that call was?
I don't remember exactly. I know I just figured I'd work late, and I was sitting talking with a buddy of mine for like an hour on the job site. Was
that before or after your lunchtime that you decided you were going to work late? Do you remember?
I I don't remember exactly. It was probably around 4:30 or something like that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
So you thought you would have possibly worked late at 4:30, and then you call and say, "Hey," but they weren't at the Walgreens at 4:30. So if you decided you're going to work late, and the call happened at the Walgreens, it would had to have been like what, like around.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. All I know is I was gonna go home, and then I found out they was waiting on a prescription and all that, and I thought, well, I might as well just work late then, and that's what I did. But I ended up talking to my buddy for like an hour about whatever we talked about. And then after he left, I started work a little bit, and that's when
Was
I
your
got.
buddy a worker? Was your buddy a worker there, or he would just stop by to hang out?
Well, he was working a couple houses down from me with his
Okay,
crew.
got it. So it's the same kind of company, right?
Yeah, same company. He worked for the same company.
Nice. Okay, good. That day, you say it took you what, half the time from the Meadows in Jonesboro to get home, and you were
Yeah.
driving over the double yellows and all that stuff. And how
That's
how
weird
long
to
did it take
me.
you to get home? And
how
do you
does
remember
he
exact time that you
not
left
know
after you put away your?
the time, which makes me think he hasn't rehearsed the timeline. So the story that Candace tells is completely different than the story that Dawn tells. Like the timelines just don't match. If they were at Walgreens when he called, and he thinks he called when he was already starting to get ready to come home, it would be like 3 or 4 hours difference in time, and then I wanted to listen to the interview that Chris McDonough did with Hunter and him talking about the phone call. And that timeline, his timeline in it.
I was saying the line was long
Okay.
because you have
Who went inside the store?
Nobody went in. We went through the drive-thru.
Got it.
And then while we were in the drive-thru, her husband calls her talking about this dude named on the property that's been there for like a week or so. She told me that keeps stalking the little kids.
Who's that?
Some dude named like I have no idea who was.
Okay. And why did Don call?
I have no idea. He just called. I don't even know if he was working at the time.
Okay.
But if he was working, he obviously wouldn't know that there was some dude looking at the little kids.
So this dude named Don calls Candace
And tells her about, I don't know if his name was.
and tell me about that conversation.
All I heard was.
And how did you hear it?
I heard because I asked her why he called.
Okay.
The only thing that she told me from the phone call is that there was some dude, whatever it was, just the name.
Okay.
That's all I remember. Is that he's been up on the property for a week or two, trying to I guess she said touch the little kids. That's what I was told.
He's trying to have what?
Touch the little kids.
Touch the kids?
Like give him a hug or something. I don't know.
What do you think? Do you think that's true?
I mean, it could be because she's had this. Name was Billy, right? Yes, Billy. Billy was up there doing that stuff until we got arrested.
And Billy is the brother,
No.
the son.
Nope. Billy was an old drunk.
He's what?
Drunk.
He was an old drunk that was a friend of theirs that used to get in arguments with his wife.
And go
His
up to
wife
their
would
house.
take him out, and he would go up there and sleep in one of the sheds on the property.
Got it. And who was Billy trying to touch?
Well, Billy has a hots for grandma.
The grandma.
Got it. But
would
what about the
Hunter
kids?
Overheard?
Oh,
What would Hunter have overheard for Candace to gaslight him and tell him it was Dawn calling, it was Dawn talking about the kids at the house and some guy out there? It just kind of makes me question, was it Dawn that called? Who would have called her talking about a guy out there? Which is weird because there was Dobbs out there. He was out there, a weird guy out there. Was it Jody Sue calling her, telling her about the guy out there? somebody else, like a completely unknown person that we don't know yet, that hasn't been introduced to us, that she's hiding their identity for some reason. But she couldn't hide the phone call that happened because it happened in front of Hunter. But she's gaslit everyone into believing that the call was a call from Donnie to her, just asking her what time she'd be home. Because if that was the call, and that's what Hunter would have overheard, she wouldn't have had to go into so much detail about the weird thing she was talking about, so that she could explain it to Hunter, because it was a weird conversation, weird enough that he wanted to, he asked questions about it. And the phone call, if it was Dawn's timeline that would have been made to Candace, Hunter would have never overheard that call because he would have already been home. And he didn't say he called twice. He just called once, and it was while they were at Walgreens. And then that's where I want to go again and look at in the timeline where Candace talks about that there was a call. Let's listen to this.
Okay, but it was
This one. It's this video. She says there was a call.
What about this call allegedly that Hunter says came in? Well, he said there was a call that Dawn made to you while you were in line at the prescription. Did that happen?
He called me and asked how everything was going.
Okay.
And how soon we were going to be home.
Okay. Hunter relates that he mentioned to you that Dawn had said something about somebody around the property. Is that true?
That is so bullshit.
Okay.
Sorry to say, but that's a bunch of bullshit.
Okay. All right. Okay. So where is?
I don't mean to get upset, but when something's said like that,
here's the good news. Okay.
And then she goes into her fit throwing again, like she does when she doesn't want to talk about a certain subject. She all of a sudden starts throwing it off onto somebody else and doing her, fit throwing that she does, and gets dramatic because she doesn't want to go into detail about the phone call. And that's where it makes me think that the phone call, there's something to this phone call. I kind of wish we could somehow ask Hunter again what exactly he overheard her saying in this phone call. Not what she told him was talked about, but the things she was actually saying, listening to this phone call. Because there's things that Hunter has said in his interview that just make him look stupid and like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But because they're things he overheard that day that have him confused. He overheard Jonesboro, going to Jonesboro, changing her into that outfit so we could go to Jonesboro. And what does he know about Jonesboro? Oh, the swim parks in Jonesboro. It's like he was gaslit, overhearing certain things in the conversations that day, and then he was gaslit afterwards to make him believe it was in reference to something else. And that has me questioning things again. And then you have her going over the timeline again, which I want to play that because I wanted her words explaining the timeline. So let's listen to her words explaining the timeline.
Okay, but it sounded like he was kind of telling the truth there.
He was kind of telling the truth, but the way he was telling where we went and how we did it was all twisted up and around.
What's different that you want to clear up?
Well, because when we left from the emergency room, we went straight to the smoke shop, and that's when I got the cigarettes and stuff like that there. And then we stopped at the hippie house, and I got those cheap vapes because they're cheap there. And then we went and put my mom's prescription in, and then we went to Warriors, and then we come back to Walgreens, got mom's prescription, went to Sonic, then to Priceless, then to his house.
Okay.
And that's exactly
That's
in
the
that
order. Okay. So he had it different in your, from what you remember.
Right.
Okay. So
there you go. That's her timeline. So let's go ahead and look at her timeline on maps. On Google Earth, I had made a map, a year or so ago, with the timeline on it. But since then, they did push their time up. Originally, they said 7:30 in the morning. And now, both her and Dawn have said now that it's a later time, more maybe around 8:30. So I want to go and look at this timeline. So they start out at their house, and we'll say 8:30 in the morning they leave, and then they drive to the hospital. If you look at the maps, it takes under 30 minutes to get to the hospital. Like, it takes 30, we'll say around 30 minutes. So they get to the hospital. If they leave at 8:30, by the time the mom goes in and the grandma goes in, it's probably 8:40. She's sitting in the parking lot. Then she goes to Allie's house. Let's say around 9. They said maybe 10:30. Then from there, they're there at 10:30. Then they have to go pick grandma back up again. It's a few minutes drive. Let's say they're picking grandma up around 11 now. That gives them way extra time. Way more time probably than they should get, but let's say around 11. Then they drive to the Discount Tobacco. By the time they go there, they go in and get stuff, maybe 11:20 by then. And then they leave there, and Candace says they go to the hippie house, which is just another few minutes away. So maybe 11:30, 11:35 by the time they get there. Even if they stay in there for 20 minutes, they still would be getting to Walgreens by noon. Even if they took so much time in between, 12:30 the latest. So you're talking, if you go by their timeline and their events that happened that day, they would be at Walgreens around noon. And Don for sure did not call her around noon. He says he didn't. He called her, the earliest he said was 3. So how did this all turn into being 3 o'clock that the phone call came in? Unless the phone call Candace received while she was waiting to drop off the prescription at Walgreens came from somebody else. I really think this phone call needs to be looked into more. I hope that TBI, they did pull their phone records. Even if they deleted stuff, I'm sure they would have a way to find out if there was a phone call that came into her phone and who it was from. Because why would they hide who it was from? The other question I have is even the dropping off the prescription. Would it have been when they were picking the prescription up, maybe? Even if it was when they were picking the prescription up, it still would have been maybe around 2. Because they went to Priceless and dropped Hunter off, and he was back home by 2:30. So it still would have been before 3 that there would have even been a phone call if the phone call happened when they were picking the prescription up and not dropping it off. But that still is, the timeline is still off. but they said it was, both of them agree that it was while they were waiting to drop the prescription off, which is so strange to me that it would be that much difference in a time discrepancy between the two. It makes me think that Don was not rehearsed in this fake timeline because he doesn't know it. He just is telling the truth. He doesn't know anything. And that the timeline that Hunter and Candace are saying might be different than really what happened. It does make me question things. So, you know, we can listen one more time to Doug's conversation that he had with Dawn. Just to go back, now that we talked about this, to listen again to what Dawn actually says. Just listen to this.
Oh, I was just asking you. So, when you were talking for 45 minutes, what car was she driving?
Well, like she said, I mean, she took her mom's truck down looking for Summer. She was driving all over, up and down Ben Hill Road, you know.
I got other stuff we could break.
Yes.
It's all right. Take your time, Don. Get my coffee. We're good. Take your time.
Hopefully I'm back. I don't know.
There you go. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know for how long, but I'm here.
All right. So I was just asking you. So when you were talking for 45 minutes, what car was she driving?
Well, like she said, I mean, she took her mom's truck down looking for Summer. She was driving.
All right. At that point, okay. At what point do you remember what time you called where they were at Walgreens and you said you were going to work late that night? Do you remember what time you called Freedom Feel Better? Thank you. Do you remember what time that call was?
I don't remember exactly. I know I just figured I'd work late, and I was sitting talking with a buddy of mine for like an hour on the job site.
Was that before or after your lunchtime that you decided you were going to work late? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly. It was probably around 4:30 or something like that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
So you thought you would have possibly worked late at 4:30, and then you call and say, "Hey," but they weren't at the Walgreens at 4:30. So if you decided you were going to work late, but the call happened at the Walgreens, it would have had to been like around.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. All I know is I was gonna go home, and then I found out they was waiting on a prescription and all that, and I thought, well, I might as well just work late then. And that's what I did, but I ended up talking to my buddy for like an hour about whatever we talked about. And then after he left, I started work a little bit, and that's when
Was your buddy a worker? Was your buddy a worker there, or he would just stop by to hang out?
Well, he was working a couple houses down from me. With his
okay,
crew.
Got it. So it's the same kind of company, right?
Yeah, same company. He worked for the same company.
Nice. Okay, good. That day, you say it took you half the time from the Meadows in Jonesboro to get home, and you were driving over the double yellows and all that stuff. And you
really makes me question
how long did it take you to get home? And do you remember exact time that you left after you put away your tools?
Doesn't really
what time you left from the Meadows?
What's going on?
I'm not exactly sure.
He doesn't have anything
exactly
scripted.
I don't know.
He just saying what he straight from his mind about things, versus Candace's story seems very scripted, and I don't know. What if somebody else called her that day? Who would have called her that day? What would have been said in front of Hunter about some guy, a guy, and the kids, that he would think that it was Dawn saying something about the kids, that some guy up there touching the kids? And he did overhear a name being said. Wonder if it was Jody Sue, because Jody Sue would have been the only one who would have been calling about a guy out there because of Dobbs. And she would have mentioned Andy's name, but not as being the person touching the kids or anything, but that, you know, maybe mentioning Andy's name, and then, or even, you know, the whole thing. Maybe it could have been Jody calling her. Maybe that's what Jody was waiting on, Candace to get back with a prescription or medication or something, because she wasn't feeling well that day. I don't know. I'm just keep trying to think, why would he believe these things? And same thing with the Jonesboro part. So he overheard them talking about going to Jonesboro, but in his mind he kept relating it to the water park out there and putting Summer in that outfit because they had to go to Jonesboro. So he overheard things, but Candace gaslit him into thinking he was listening to them talking about something else. And that's why he sounds so confused and not sure what they were really doing that day, because they were talking about things. Candace talking to someone on the phone that he overheard, overhearing him talk about Candy Hair, the conversation between Candy Hair and Candace, overhearing that conversation, overhearing conversations between Candace and Summer, that he, for some reason, got the impression that she needed to get that outfit put on her to go to Jonesboro. And then Jonesboro, he connected that with the water park, yet they weren't going to the water park. And they weren't going to Jonesboro. They were only going to go home after dropping Hunter off. But he overheard stuff, and he was gaslit into believing these weird random things, and he speculated and he created his own story in his own mind of what they were talking about because he didn't know what they were talking about. And these were things that pertain to Jonesboro, pertain to a guy out there that day, pertain to what time, the time that they would be getting home, it would be later, pertain to the water park, different things. I don't know, and I'm trying to think what would they have been talking about, why he would have thought they were talking about something else. Because like a little kid, you know how you could talk about something in front of a little kid, but you can make them think you're talking about something else, and you know, adults do it all the time. And I feel like Hunter was, you know, a recipient of this, the adults talking around him, and he was picking up pieces of their conversation, yet he didn't know what was going on, so his mind created a different scenario. But evidently, he did overhear them talking about probably having to go to Jonesboro, go somewhere that day. That's why she had to get that outfit put on her. Not because she was cold, because it was hot that day. The same thing about the pillow. The pillow's put in the car so Summer doesn't get the seat wet. Yet Summer's never in the car wet. because she got the outfit got put on her. So why is the pillow there, and why does Candace say the pillow's there so the seat wouldn't get wet when Summer was never wet in the car? There's just things that were said, it's just strange to me. The timeline is what's throwing me off. And I really usually can figure things out, and I just can't figure this one out. But I'm trying to get all the little pieces, every little tiny little piece that I can get to fit in, to try and see if I can make some sense of it. But what I am learning is that the phone call that Candace received while she was at Walgreens was probably not Dawn. It was somebody else. And what was said, the reason Candace can't say, yeah, he told me, because that would have just helped the whole scenario of abduction would have helped it. Oh yeah, I called her, I told her, you got to watch my kids, there's creepy guys out there. That would have just fit right into their abduction scenario. But no, they deny it. Dawn denies saying that. Candace denies Dawn said it to her. But that's what Hunter overheard, something in reference to somebody getting kids. Somebody getting the kids. Touching the kids or going around is going to be up there. Some guy was going to be up there. That's what he heard. And Candace told him it was Dawn calling. Told him Dawn said that. He overheard stuff. Even if Candace didn't tell him that. But he created that in his own mind out of what he overheard in the conversation that Candace was having with this other person. It really, makes me wonder what was said in that phone call. And who called? Somebody called. Somebody called while they were at Walgreens, and it probably wasn't Dawn. And that person might hold the key to all of this. And I hope TBI was able to pull her phone records to see who this person was that called. This person mattered enough that they're not mentioned as being the person who called. Why would they hide it? Why would they hide who called? So that's it for now, guys. I would like to, you guys in the comment section, give me your thoughts on this. And please like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys next time.